afternoon. At the tone, Pacific Daylight Time will be 5, 4, and 30 seconds.
What? Oh my God, we're having an earthquake. Wait a minute. Hold on. Can you feel that? Yes, I sure can. Okay, this is interesting. There go the lights. Oh.
We are here with Allison Peters Orlando. It is June 19th, 2019, and we are talking about the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake. Thank you, Allison, for coming.
Thank you.
How would you describe your relationship to Santa Cruz?
Well, Santa Cruz is my hometown. I consider it my hometown. Moved here when I was 4, so I've gone to school here and had a career here, and I've traveled and lived in other places, and like within the last 2 years have come back to Santa Cruz after being away for about 6 years. So it feels like no other place. And I think, I thought it was just because it was home, but I think it's because it's a special place. I talk to people that are not from here that have the same feeling that I do. So I just think I'm terribly lucky to have this as my home. So, yeah.
As are we all. How old were you when the earthquake hit?
I was 29. And I was at work when it happened. Mm-hmm. It was quitting time, 5 o'clock. I was working in an office downtown, and my friends were just kind of collecting their things as we always did, and grab my purse and standing up to leave the building. And we were on a 2-story building, and it started to shake pretty badly. And we're all just kind of looking at each other, like, what do we do? And, the dilemma was, do we leave the building or do we stay in the safety of this 2-story place? I mean, is it going to get worse? So I just thought, I want to get home. I'd feel safer at home. So I said, I'm leaving. And my friend and I took a dash for it down the stairs, through an alleyway, up to a 2nd-story parking structure, up downtown. And so I was up on the upstairs level, and we just hightailed it and got out of there. So
wow,
yeah,
that's amazing. So you said you were at work or leaving work when
Mm-hmm.
the earthquake hit.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about that experience, in the moments of the earthquake and shortly thereafter? What were you experiencing personally, emotionally, spiritually? Anything like that?
I think it was more of a survival thing. That flight or fight, I just needed to get home. And I just, I thought that was what, as far as the safest thing for me to do. And I remember looking back as I was leaving downtown, there were people like huddled and eaves of buildings and stuff, and I looked down at the Pacific Garden Mall, and there was smoke coming up, and I was only a block away from the Pacific Garden Mall, and I just felt like I needed to get out of there. So that's what I did.
How did the earthquake impact your life?
I was thinking about that because I feel like I was pretty lucky. I didn't suffer a lot of personal property damage. I know that when I got home, for some reason, sugar and water was on my kitchen floor. I had one of those water dispensers, and it went over, and somehow the sugar fell out of the cupboard. So I had to clean that up, and I think my television was on the floor, but I don't think it broke. So I was so lucky, and I was in a 1-story wooden structure on Seabright, one of those little like beach cottages from the 20s, and most of my neighbors were out in the parking lot that night because they didn't want to be in their houses. We felt a lot of aftershocks, and I stayed inside because whatever. But we did feel a lot of aftershocks, but I thought that was interesting. We had no electricity, and we just kind of rode it out. And I thought what was interesting about the impact of the earthquake as well as I certainly learned a lot about earthquakes. My friends and I were walking around, we had probably 50 aftershocks or something like that. And our friends and we would say, yeah, that felt like maybe a 5.0 or maybe that was a 3.5, I think. So we were all like becoming mini seismologists because there were so many aftershocks. And the other thing that I want to give my mom credit for, and this kind of comes to the earthquake preparedness, but she, when we were growing up, she always said we're going to have a central place. Growing up, but also by the time we had all moved out of the house and had our own families, that we have one central place that we go. And we decided, since my sister was kind of midway between my mom's and myself, that we would meet up there. And it happened to be my brother-in-law's birthday, October 17th. Oh my gosh. So we all made it to my sister's house safely, and she was on Pacheco off of Soquel, so that's where she was kind of midpoint. And I remember that's what we had for dinner, is we had his birthday cake in the dark, listening to the radio in the car, hearing stories about the Cypress structure and the Bay Bridge, and it was a pretty wild night. So, but I feel very very fortunate that I missed out on a lot of the bad stuff that happened that day. So
yeah. You said that your family also lived in town. Did they experience anything similar as to you did, or did they also get out fairly easily? Did they have a good go of it?
Yeah, we all did. Luckily none of us worked over the hill. We heard a lot of people were stuck on the San Jose side for a number of days because they didn't open 17 for a number of days. There was rock slides and everything. My sister's car had some damage because it was in the garage at the time of the earthquake, and lots of things ended up on top of it. So she actually got a little money out of it.
Oh, jeez.
I think it was a windfall for her. She got a little money from the insurance company for her car, so she was happy. But we were, real lucky.
Good.
Yeah.
So how do you think that the earthquake impacted Santa Cruz as a community?
What I really find sad is, because I work downtown, and it was always some place that I visited growing up. There's a lot of memories of Pacific Garden Mall for me. I remember the guy with the saw playing the saw. So, and he's got a statue out there, and I've been here for a while, and the Cooper House was such a cool place, and all of those old buildings that they had to tear down after the earthquake. And now that when I go down to the mall, it's not the same. Yeah. It's so new, it used to look really old and quaint, and and the Cooper House is really a shame. That I wish they would have been able to save that, because for people that weren't here for that, it was amazing. It had a basement that was like carved out of stone or something, and I thought it was just like, it was a real rock basement, and it was just I don't know when it was built, but pre-1900 probably. And I heard a story about a tunnel, or a few tunnels that went from the Cooper House to the courthouse during the bootleg time, so people could get alcohol to the judges. So it had such history, and that's really what for the other generations. And there was live music in the afternoon, and there were people that just danced, and it was a great venue, and it's too bad that had to go. So yeah.
Did you notice anything about the people of Santa Cruz community? Did you feel like there was a significant shift in attitude or perception? Did people really come together? Was there a lot of isolation? Did you notice any of that?
I think, I didn't feel that I needed, I guess I felt it was kind of normal. I've lived in California, lived in Santa Cruz most of my life. And I think like the people that were out in the parking lot at my apartment building may have been people that hadn't experienced a lot of earthquakes before, and they didn't want to be inside at all. And I know a lot of people, I mean, I didn't know anybody personally, but I know that I had heard a lot of people had left the area after the earthquake. Yeah, and it actually, I ended up buying my first house about 4 years after the earthquake, and it kind of lowered costs of the homes in the area for a while. So there were positive, I mean, in if that can be a positive, the fact that it kept property values down for a while because people didn't want to move back here for a while. But I think, I think most of the people like me weren't going to leave Santa Cruz. If they had lived here for a while, they're not, if they're rooted, they're not going to go anywhere. So we just wrote it out.
Yeah. Previously you had mentioned the sight of the fire trucks lining up.
Yeah.
Can you just revisit that real quick?
Yeah.
What that was like? And
The thing I remember most about the day was when I got up to the second story parking garage, and I want to say it's like Cedar and Center Street, maybe. It's the 2-story parking garage, cement parking garage. It's relatively new downtown, and I got into my car and down the ramp, and I'm going down towards the boardwalk, that direction, to get to the Laurel Street Bridge. And I remember as I'm driving down that road, every single intersection from the Civic Auditorium coming towards me, there was a fire truck. And I'm just driving, I trying to like keep my head together and in that flight or fight mode, and it must have been like 2 minutes after 5:04, so it was maybe 5:05 or 5:10 or something by the time we got down. And it was fire engine. I drove to the next intersection, fire engine, and the next intersection, fire engine, and they were all going towards the Pacific Garden Mall, where I saw all that smoke coming out. And what hit me was that they were right there, doing their job as, without any fear. I was running away from the scene, and they were going towards these people that needed help and trying to rescue people, and they were the true heroes of that day. And I still remember those red fire trucks, one after another. They looked like little soldiers going into battle. It was just fire engine, fire engine, fire engine, fire engine. And so I was proud of our Civic Auditorium. That's where they came from, that fire station right there, at Santa Cruz Civic. So, yay.
Yeah.
They were awesome.
That's wonderful. They certainly do a great job of a lot of things.
Yeah. I wish I could have thanked them personally. I do honor what they do, and I'd like for them to hear that someday, Yeah. I was very proud of them.
Very good. Very good. Do you take any precautions against natural disasters after your experience?
I think I generally, whenever, if I'm in a house where I live, I generally, in my mind, have a plan of where I'm gonna be, like where the safest place in the house might be in the event of an earthquake. Interesting, I spent some time on the East Coast, and I think I was much more scared about tornadoes, and to think about where I was going to be when that tornado hit. And I think as far as earthquake goes, I just hope I have a few cans of food and a couple of bottles of water and some batteries, and hope it's not too bad. I know that California obviously has some good earthquake safety. Otherwise we would have had much worse damage in Santa Cruz than we had, and we have a lot of single story and lower story buildings, so I feel pretty safe here, knock on wood. I think, hopefully I have enough medication. That's tricky because, the insurance company won't give us a little extra medication that we need to have for our emergency kits, so maybe they need to watch
That's
and
absolutely
learn.
challenging.
Yeah, but I have a, in my mind, I kind of know what I need. I could be more organized. I think one of the concerns I always had was of the expiration of certain things. Like if I put something store it in a certain place and never look at it again, what's that stuff going to be like when I need it? So
Yeah.
it kind of needs to revolve.
Yeah.
So.
Great. And is there anything else that you'd like to add that we didn't cover?
Let's see, I don't think so. I think that was pretty well. I think actually I could add that one of my friends worked at the Shadowbrook restaurant in 1989, and one of the things the Shadowbrook did is they had a neighborhood feast, whatever.
Wow.
And it was, I think, 2 days, either a day or 2 days after the earthquake. And they just set up tables and they brought all of the food up because it's going to spoil. So they brought all that food up and we had, they made spaghetti, I think. But it was the Shadowbrook. So we had spaghetti and French bread, and at that time they were making their French bread, I think, and it was really a treat. So that, as far as your neighborhood things going on, those were the little things that were going on that I remember that were really special. So
That's wonderful to hear.
yeah.
One thing that I'm sort of curious about, you're talking about becoming mini seismologists.
Oh, yeah.
With your friends, and where, when you were learning that and thinking about it, where were you getting your information? Like, oh, this feels like a 5 to me. Like, how did you know?
It was literally, you would feel it, and then you'd hear on the radio, we just had a 3.5, and then 3 hours later you hear them, and you feel it again. It's like, oh, we go again. We had like 50 aftershocks in 3 days. So with that many, and there was one other thing I forgot. The only thing I would add, if I was going to add, that for a long time, we were in that second story building upstairs. I think it was above the telephone company on Locust. Every time the city bus went down the street and the windows would rattle, I would grab onto my desk because it was like 3.5. And it was literally just any kind of rumbling that I heard for a very long time after that. I'd have to like brace myself for a minute until I realized, okay, it's just a bus. So it's the noise that you remember that,
Yeah. Have you been in any other earthquakes since that time?
We haven't had, we really haven't had very many, which is a little scary because they usually say that that's when there's pressure building. But I remember feeling a lot of them when I was growing up. I've been here since I was 4, and I think our house in Aptos, my mom said, was right on the fault line. Mm-hmm. So, well, my mother exaggerates too. But I felt a lot of them, and then, just growing up here, sometimes it goes bum bum. It's like really like, whoa.
Yeah, and was that the kind of sensation from that quake, or was it different?
I think, I don't kind of remember. I think it rolled. It seemed like it went on forever.
Yeah.
It like would roll, just like you're going, because you're kind of like standing on quicksand for it. Was like going, wow, when is this thing gonna stop? I mean, because like I said, I've been here since the 60s, and I've felt a lot of them, and usually we just like, yeah, whatever. Just so casual about it. So that was the biggest one I've obviously ever been through. Mm-hmm. We didn't know it was a 7.1. And I remember even with my mom growing up, if I wasn't after I left the house and I'd feel an earthquake, we'd call each other. It's like, did you feel that? No, because it was like your validation. Do you think that was an earthquake? And as soon as you feel them, if you think it is, you'll turn your radio on, because within 10 or 15 minutes, somebody local station is going to say, yeah, we just felt an earthquake. Do you guys feel that? And that's how you know for sure. Because like I said, that city bus sometimes went by and it sounded just like an earthquake. It was, yeah.
Is that usually where you got, like at the time you talked about listening to the radio in the car, is radio usually how you were getting your information at that time?
Because, well, Only if it was in the middle of the night when I called my mom. It's like, was that an earthquake? It's like 2:30 in the morning. Are you listening to the radio? Because, I guess that's what we did, and now you'd probably just turn on the TV. And then on the day, we had no electricity. So we were in the car listening to the radio with the car battery because there was no way to hear what was going on otherwise.
Yeah. And did you find, like, when you were learning things about the news, did you think, oh, that seems reliable? Or did you think, oh, that seems...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I totally believe if they say it's a 3.5, it's a 3.5. I don't question. Yeah,
I guess we heard some, in doing research for this project, we learned there were some surprising sounding stories, like a horse loose on the highway.
There was!
For example. Yeah.
There was. At Pocanip. There are articles about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that, the paper also got involved in, like, reporting some things and asking people to write in about some of their experiences.
Oh.
Well, great. Well, if you don't have anything else to add, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come talk with us. I hope that we don't experience another earthquake in our lifetime, but if we do, I hope that you get out just as easy as you did the last time.
I know.
And thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you.